Welcome to 2023 and episode 47 of the Triple Takeover Toycast, a fortnightly podcast about Transformers plus other vintage and modern toy lines. It's a Transformers free zone this time out as we change the squadron up, do the opposite to everyone else at the start of the year, and look back into the past at the origins of our beloved Autobot cars. Joining me as always are my fellow Dianauts. First up, it's the boy in a grown-up's powered suit who can absolutely be trusted to operate heavy machinery. It's Liam from Toybox Soapbox.
What ho? A clone.
Oh my gosh.
You know he's had that on cooker all day.
Yeah.
Literally 3 seconds ago.
Yeah. Alongside him, it's the fellow who often reminds us that they don't make them like they used to. Your friendly neighborhood dinosaur robo, Sixo from Sixo. And I'm M.A.S.K from TFsquareone.
Well, hang on a minute. Was that an age joke? That's very bold, considering you're older than I am.
This is a topic that performed well in our episode polls last year, so we're thrilled to finally get to it. Okay, I'm thrilled to finally get to it. It's Diaclone Car Robots. Happy New Year, lads. Should we get on with the ceremony?
Well, I don't know. I'm still wanting to know more about Liam's heavy machinery.
I would love to be in charge of heavy machinery. I'd be really good at it. I can't drive, but I'm good at bikes.
Well, that's precisely why you, of all people, shouldn't be in charge of heavy machinery.
Yeah, indeed. How are the driving lessons going, by the way?
Oh, I've given up for a bit. I've taken a break.
Taking a break.
Yeah, apparently I can't stop speeding, apparently. I just keep getting told for that, so...
Right, yeah. It's hard to not ram your foot down on the accelerator pedal, isn't it?
What did he tell me? I'm ignorant of speed limits. Only a little bit. It's like, I'm not going that fast. And I know where it is because I live around there.
Most accidents happen close to where you live.
And I always take the lessons after school as well, so there's no kids around.
Wait, after your school or their
Just
school?
going to say, totally made it sound like that. I've just got this image of Kevin McAllister having driving lessons, and I'm like, yeah, maybe taking a break is a good idea.
Just eating sweets in the front.
Yeah. I used to have a driving instructor, actually. It was obviously years ago, but sorry, Liam, I didn't mean that. Obviously, this was years ago that I learned to drive.
He wonders why we call him a dinosaur robo.
You're right, exactly. So old. But yeah, my driving instructor, you'd be chundering along or whatever, and he'd say, right, pull over here, do all of this maneuver or whatever, pull over, park. He'd say, right, little digestive break, and he'd just break out the biscuits, and we'd just sit there for like 5 minutes in complete silence. And honestly, I'd just be like, well, this is kind of awkward. Do you know what I mean? It was just so bizarre, but hey ho.
I love that he made you stop the car before he could have a digestive.
Oh, yeah. You know how some driving instructors are like real nerds for it. They like loved the highway code, loved driving sensibly, all of that kind of stuff,
But why a digestive? Well, you get like a chocolate hobnob or, something nice.
I don't know, mate. It's probably too exciting.
Sticky crumbs.
Yeah.
Did he have a thermos?
No, I don't recall if he had a thermos or not. It was quite probably.
My driving instructor used to get me to drive him to all the places he needed to do chores or errands. Like we used to drive up to Enfield where he needed to get like fishing stuff. He just made me park outside the store.
Did he work for Every or something? Just chuck a package out occasionally.
Drive-by package delivery.
Right, just throw a package.
But yes, did you have a good holiday period? We're finally back for 2023. It's been ages since we've done this. So, I'm currently enjoying a very productive no purchase January. I'm sure you two are definitely like on that as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, but it was a lovely holiday. I'm not going to comment on no purchase January, but yeah, it was a lovely holiday. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I had a great time. I drank loads, ate loads, watched loads, played loads. It was brilliant. Sad it's over. Where did it go?
Well, in everything you just described.
Yeah, it's just flown by. It was like a blink and it was gone.
Yeah, it's different, man. When you got kids, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, it's fun. Do you know what I mean? But it's busy. Like you say, it has flown by, but in a completely different way, I think. But great fun. Just old 7-0, just at the kind of perfect age now to kind of get into the whole Santa thing and all of that. We did a bit obviously last year and stuff as well. And we have previous years, but we're just kind of right in the thick of it now. So that's really nice.
And we've been really looking forward to getting back to this because we chose to start the year with some pretty hard-hitting topics, right? Big name topics.
Hard-hitting? Sounds like the Cook Report or something.
Right.
90 minutes.
Exposing working practices.
Yeah, but we really have been kind of working towards it, haven't we? I've been thinking about it all Christmas period because we I think there's a few topics coming up that we've been holding off on for a little bit. Do you think that's fair to say?
To say the least, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple saving for the right occasion. This feels like the right occasion.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Sort of real special topics that we're like, oh yeah, we'll get to that eventually. But almost you end up, I think, sort of psychologically having to work yourself up to them a little bit. And we just decided to go for it, didn't we? We were like, new year, new outlook.
New triple takeover.
Yeah. Well, the break helped.
Yeah.
The break helped. And also, I think inadvertently seeing that Toy Shop on Tour video of Jonathan Ross's hyper collection of vintage Japanese toys and how heavily Diaclone was featured in there.
Was there a lot?
Yeah, it's like he's
great.
a serious Diaclone collector and Microman and everything else, Engine Cyborg. It's a whole lot. I would absolutely recommend it. It's a thoroughly fantastic 1 hour of your time that you will spend, and it flies by because it's really enjoyable. It's probably not what you think.
I saw a photo. Is it the Leicester Toy Shop guys?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because I pop in there every now and again because Leicester's like 20 minutes on a train from where I live, so I pop in quite a bit. That's quite cool.
Yeah. And when you're in there, you always talk about the podcast, right?
I usually go into Cinnabon because it's next to it and buy a big cinnamon thing.
I'd love to go and check out their shop. It looks amazing. I mean, I love following those guys on Twitter because they're really fun anyway. Yeah. And their YouTube series is great. It is great. They're really, really good. They've done Paul as well, haven't they? So that's worth a look.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
And that was a really good episode from Paul from the Space Bridge, for those of you that know him. For those of you that know him.
And again, right next to a Cinnabon.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Just all good UK toy shops next to a Cinnabon.
A city what?
A Cinnabon. Yeah, I said Cinnabon.
John Mastodon again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Whole Mastodon thing.
Yeah, Mastodon.
Barbecue grill, I'll peep Cinnabon.
Peep Cinnabon.
Start as you mean to go on, mate.
Right.
Don't ever change.
Absolutely. But no, that Jonathan Ross video is excellent. Really very good. And I had an inkling that he was a toy collector, but it's just like something else. But to another level, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Someone online said to me, oh, I'm getting too much jealousy from this. And I was like, I can't even work up a feeling of jealousy because it's just out of sight. It's like a museum. Think of something and it's there. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't have like a lot of modern stuff necessarily, but some he does.
Modern Diaclone he has.
Yeah.
Which is great to see.
Yeah. Some really nice stuff as well. But I did laugh when he's doing the little tour of Diaclone and he was showing off some of the modern stuff and he pointed out Battle Buffalo, the new Battle Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then he said, of course, that's this one down here. And he's got the vintage one in a cabinet. And it's just when he goes, the older one's better. Like really under his breath. And I did chuckle.
Of course, because you're a fellow dinosaur robo, aren't you?
Right, exactly. I am a dinosaur robo, indeed.
So he had new Diaclone as well?
Yeah, he had new Diaclone, and he like 4 of each. Like the boxes of new Battle Buffalo were 4 deep, and then he had a whole stack of Waruda suits as well. Not sure how up to date it is, his collection, but he's into it. He's active.
He's into it, definitely.
You get on our Discord.
Yeah, maybe. I also laughed at the bit where he talked about the great robot base, and he said, "Oh, and of course that was the most expensive and hardest to find of the original Diaclone toys, and the camera pans, and there are 5 of them, all mint in box." And it's like, yep, okay, we know who we know what kind of level we're pitching at here.
Sixo's like challenge accepted.
No, mate. No, challenge out of sight. Honestly,
give it a month.
Soon to be all of Diaclone.
Yeah. But that has definitely fueled my interest in doing this episode. And I just felt like it came along at exactly the right time. I saw his collection and I got the pang of, but what if I never bought any more new stuff? What if I just got rid of all the new stuff again and everything since 1985 and just focused on getting Diaclone again, like I've done in the past? Except now that would get me 2 toys.
Yeah, right.
Whereas 10 years ago, it might have got me 25 to 50. Now it's like 2, maybe 1.
A little bit different.
Half a toy. But yeah, and then looking up for this episode and doing the research for this one again, my thoughts together for it again reminds me how much I love this part of collecting and just how special it is. And seeing someone like that collect it in the way that he does, and the kind of people that we have in the Diaclone community, like Raz, for example, who is not specifically a Diaclone collector, just like Rossi isn't.
Yeah.
But what they have is spectacular, and it has that museum vibe to it.
It really does. It's very inspiring. Really, really inspiring. He follows me on Twitter now as well. What's that about?
Nice.
I couldn't believe it. So
I think he's a very active community member when it comes to toy collecting, and he does participate in collector groups. Probably groups that you're a member of and don't know that he's there.
Right, I was going to say.
He collects so much, and he's so into finding out about the toys that he's probably around.
Oh, that was really the bit that got me, was just watching that vid, was that, for a solid hour, he's going through, I lost count of the number of toy lines, let alone individual toys, but he knew each and every one of them, and he knew some backstory. Like, there were a couple of bits where he was like, was it this or was it that? But he always knew, do you know what I mean? He had so much knowledge in that brain. Impressive stuff, definitely.
Yeah, he had something to say about all of it,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah, it wasn't just, oh, this is a thing that I have on a shelf and I don't know the kind of history of it or whatever. He knew his stuff for sure. But yeah, you're right. The Diaclone stuff, museum worthy, super inspiring for sure. Anyway, talking about being inspired, you might be inspired to check out our sponsors for the night, which are two of them. We have first up TFsource.com for all your Transformers and third-party needs. Big
Diaclone.
And Diaclone needs. Yeah, they got some Diaclone goodies going on there. Quite a lot of Diaclone, actually. Pretty reliable for the old Diaclone. So do check them out at tfsource.com. And we've also got kapowtoys.co.uk, a UK supplier, and they do ship to some bits of Europe as well. And they do more beyond just Transformers, and they do some Diaclone as well, actually. But yeah, do check them out, and we'll do a longer segment on both of them in the middle of the pod.
And if you want to hear more from Triple Takeover, if you want more content than just the fortnightly episodes, of course, we keep saying fortnightly, but we've had like 3 to 4 weeks off at this point. So going forward, again, back to fortnightly.
That's a rarity.
Yeah. You can get weekly exclusive content, and that includes mini-sodes that can be commissioned by our patrons, or mini-series where we have extended multiple episodes on a particular topic, whether it's IDW More Than Meets the Eye, a new toy line that Liam's going to talk about from the past, or more Unicorn Trilogy from me. And of course, we will have different topics in the future as well. It's not just going to be this forever going forward. You can get access to our Discord server, which has been a fantastic place to hang out over the holidays. I must say, loads of cool things, loads of new additions to the community as well. So it's been a wonderful place to hang out, a real oasis in the community. You can get early access to episodes like this one, a whole week early. You can vote in episode polls. And of course, this week's episode is a winner of one of our episode polls. So eventually we got around to it. Or you can just thank us and pay us some money for just providing content. So if you want more, then that's the way to get it. Patreon.com/Triple Takeover.
And if you want even more, but in 3 dimensions in physical form, you can get official branded Triple Takeover merch from our lovely Rebel store. We've got aprons, t-shirt, tea coasters, all sorts of stuff. But you can find it all at rebel.com/people/Triple Takeover/explore.
Is this the year we finally get a Filofax?
We need the cutlery and the stationery.
Cutlery.
It's gone from stationery to cutlery.
Oh man, I'm just imagining like little children's cutlery, where it's got like the printed designs on the handles and things like that.
But he'd use that as his cutlery. Like, he wouldn't even.
How good a pencil with that, like, you remember like the kids' pencils, like the Transformers with that wrapping, but with Triple Takeover all the way down it. Imagine that. How cool would that be? Stationery set.
Be good for you reviewing your toys, wouldn't it? You just smack it against your toys, and that's how that's the thing now, isn't it?
What?
You've not seen this?
No.
Oh, come on. You'd call me the dinosaur robo, and you're not up on the latest social media memes and all of that. Japes, right, exactly. You're not seeing all of this? There's a YouTube reviewer who shall remain nameless. He's one of the ones that always gets the early samples, always like, somehow, like, did it fall off a lorry kind of thing? Or, one of those. That always, I don't know. Look, I don't know what the deal is.
The back of MP4 trailer.
Right, exactly. You said MP4, very good, Liam.
Yeah, things have changed.
New Year's resolution.
That's called character development right there. But anyway, he's one of these dudes. I don't care to speculate how they get these toys. It is what it is.
You don't have to speculate, do you? Because it's clear as day.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's. I think people kind of get the gig. But anyway, he's. I've never watched one of his videos. I shan't say his name, but I've never watched one of his videos. I hear a lot about him. I did see a clip of it someone posted, and it's been doing the rounds. He was testing the plastic quality, I think was the thing, and hitting it with it was one of the new Studio Series toys that's not even been announced yet, and hitting it with a pencil, going, oh look, this is crap, it's just crap, look at it. And then he's like hitting it with other things as well, talking about how bad the plastic quality is, and it's sort of taken off to the point of ridiculousness. So you will see various memes doing the rounds, people posting all kinds of stuff about hitting toys with things and to test the plastic quality and whatever. So that was where the pencil reference came in.
I'll have to pencil in watching that later.
Right. Do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Insert lead joke. I don't know.
I'll put some lead in your pencil. I want to know.
Get your heavy machinery on the go.
you're editing this one, you might just want to erase the last 3 minutes of pointless
Okay.
discourse.
Yeah, get us back on topic, Maz. Go on.
ポルシェ935ターボのパワーとカーロボットのメカがドッキング。エンジン回転をレッドゾーンに上げて光るボディが駆け抜ける。今君の手にカーロボットポルシェ935ターボ。
So this is not going to be a comprehensive history lesson of Diaclone Car Robots.
What?
Well, it would just take too long. And also, we've talked about the origins of Diaclone in our Diaclone episode last year. And also, we've talked about G1 cars a lot over the course of the podcast. So we're not going to start talking about diecast and the merits of these kind of Transformers toys compared to modern car robots or Masterpiece. But rather, we're going to talk about the Diaclone era of these releases and what makes those special and why is that appealing? How did you notice them? What do they mean to the community? And what's it like to collect that kind of stuff compared to collecting G1? And, you know, where does it come from? But we should talk about the history of them as in like when they started. So the Diaclone Car Robots first came out in 1982. So a good 2 years before Transformers happened. And the first one, I'm sure you'll know, was the Red Sunstreaker. Designed by Kojin Ono. And this dude was inspired by a Microman toy from 1978 called the Cosmo Countach, which was in the Microman command line. I don't know if you've ever seen this toy. It's a Lamborghini Countach, and the back half of it sort of transforms into a very robotic-looking mecha, but the front part remains a Countach. So it almost looks a little bit like a Battle Charger or a Duocon.
Okay.
So that's kind of what it looks like. And they had like a red and yellow one. And I think that's sort of credited as being one of the first Earth-based, recognizable, transforming car robot toys. And it was by Takara as well. So then he was inspired by that to create the Sunstreaker toy that we know and love for Diaclone. And that was 2 years into the Diaclone line. So that's about as history lesson-y as I want to get.
I think it's interesting for me with when I realised that Sunstreaker was the first one, because I think you can totally see that it's the first one as well. Like when you know the toy, like I love Sunstreaker as a toy. Don't get me wrong, and that's no knock on it. But to me, there is something about it that feels like an earlier version of some of the other car robots. Is that fair to say? Do you think, or do you not agree? Maz, you're pulling your face.
I definitely agree. And when I look at it, I think he looks different as well.
Yeah, I agree. I do.
Once you know he's the first, he looks like a toy from a different line.
I think I just see him as that model.
Right.
Because then I look at Skids and I think Skids is that model and he's got his own quirks, and Trailbreaker's that one and that's got its own quirks. But yeah, I mean, you look at Trax and Smokescreen a little bit further down the line.
Right.
Yeah, they are different. But again, I didn't really see them as an evolution because we're only talking about 6 months to 2 years for the entirety of those molds coming out.
Yeah.
Because then you'd have to take something like Grapple and say that's the ultimate evolution of these Diaclone cars, because that's pretty much the last one they released.
I think it's just some little stylistic things on Sunstreaker that always set it apart for me. I mean, firstly, the fists feel very different to any of the other fists. They're just molded differently. You know, even the little connector, the way they go into the arm feels different.
Significantly
somehow.
to Grapple and Inferno? Or Hoist and Trailbreaker?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe not so much to Hoist, like a little bit, maybe. I don't know. But there is just something about it to me that's always sort of felt a little bit apart. And I only say that is when I realised that it was the first one, I was like, huh, okay. Do you know what I mean? It kind of made sense somehow.
I was really surprised to find out it was the first one. Genuinely. Like, properly surprised. I think Ratchet and Ironhide being at the beginning makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Because they're so obviously not robots. Sentient robots, humanoid robots.
Yeah, they're more of your obvious mecha, aren't they? That's the
Absolutely.
thing.
Piloted.
Yeah.
It's a powered suit and a mobile base and just like a mini playset which needs its Dianauts. And yeah, so Dianauts, they came with tiny little figures which were yet another evolution of like Henshin Cyborg to then Microman and 3/4 inch size figures and then Inchmen, which are these little Diaclones. So they were just getting smaller and smaller as Takara, I think, kind of realized that the smaller these figures are, you know, they can actually sell more of them, or they could just be more successful. They require less plastic. And of course, I think one thing that we heard it in the Toys That Made Us and in the Wassie interview as well, is that the price of oil just spiked at that time. And so using less plastic construction in toys was definitely the way to go, and it wasn't so bad to include metal. So they came with Dianauts or Diaclone pilots or Diaclone drivers as they're called, and that's why your G1 Transformers cars, your Autobots, had spaces for drivers. They had little seats, they had opening canopies, like you think of Grapple and Inferno, the way that the front of that vehicle folds down and there's like a little seat, and just things like that. Roller from Optimus Prime, Ultra Magnus's chest wing,
Grimlock is always the one to me, like the
seat.
most standout one as a kid.
Yeah, so they came with little pilots, little magnetic pilots, which was part of Diaclone already for the previous 2 years.
It's fair to say that when you finally have the pleasure of having one of those little pilots in hand and you plop them into some of these cars and things like that, it's like a real light bulb moment, isn't it? It's like a real, aha, this is actually what these toys were designed to do. I don't know. It was fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's a sense of scale achieved as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like that, it ties the room together.
I was just going to say, it ties it all together so beautifully.
Do you have a vintage Diaclone pilot then?
I do. Yeah, I've got a couple of little ones.
Nice. Where'd you get them from?
One I had for ages, I think, and then I got, I think, 2 more with Raiden and things, a couple of Raiden trains.
Of course,
things.
yeah.
So, yeah. I'd like to get a few more, actually, vintage ones, because I do really like them. I think they're super cool. But yeah, no, it just good fun to kind of put in some of the... Do you know the one that got me, actually, was Inferno and Grapple? Because I remember as a kid realizing that you could fold the whole cockpit forward, the whole kind of front of the truck, and that, clearly there was an inner working there and whatever. And I think that always struck me more than even like Convoy or any of those guys, Optimus. And I don't know, just again, putting a little pilot in there, tons of fun.
It really is, yeah. And I think that's the one I remember from childhood too. It's just, why does that cab fold all the way down?
Yeah.
I had Magnus and never crossed my mind that it needed a pilot to make sense, but that one, definitely.
That's it. It's just because it's such an obvious pull the whole thing forward, and it's an additional action, isn't it? I was going to say an additional piece of molding or whatever. I wouldn't have thought of that as a kid. But even as a kid, you're aware of like, I'm able to do something here, and it seems to have no purpose, so I don't know why I can do it.
Yeah.
And then you start to notice the seats and things, don't you?
Trailbreaker and Hoist. Do you remember the little flap?
Oh, yeah.
That was always, I always remember that as a kid, putting stuff in it. Like, what's this for? You knew that it was for something, but no idea what.
I think if I'd had tracks as a kid, that one would really have stumped me. Like, why does this car have a opening flap, a roof flap?
Yeah. I actually did figure out as a kid that Magnus's head that you could put onto his little chest thing.
That's one that really surprises collectors a lot.
Yeah.
Now.
Obviously, I didn't know why, but I was like, this is the thing. Like, and it fits so perfectly that I remember it distinctly. I remember being in my bedroom. I remember where I was, and thinking, this is so weird. But, hey ho.
But the thing is, I think what I find with Diaclone Car Robots is that the inclusion of the little dudes is not what really draws people's attention to them in the first place. Initially, I know my attention was drawn to them because fundamentally it was the Autobot cars that I knew so well from decades past in different colors.
Yeah.
In really shockingly different looks. And it's like when you spent your whole life looking at Sideswipe in red because you've owned him since childhood, and then you see it in yellow, suddenly it's like, whoa, how good does that look? And that was definitely my first collecting tangent as an adult. After like buying stuff like, I've never had a Jetfire, I've never had a Devastator. When I noticed those, that was all of a sudden all-consuming at that time.
I can totally understand that. I have that same, even now, that same appeal. And even actually, I think that appeal carries over to other molds, more modern toys, where you see like a modern Tiger Track or whatever. You still kind of get that, it's Sideswipe, but in yellow. And I don't know, it's weird to say because it's a new toy, but it still has that same appeal as being somehow different.
It's still exotic.
Very
There's still
much
something about
so.
it.
That's the word, man.
Yeah,
exotic is
the word.
exactly the descriptor.
Yeah.
Still, even though we know what it is, there's still like a feeling of mystery and excitement and different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very different.
100%, just different from the norm. Like you've seen so many blue skids over the years. So when a black one pops up, it's like, ooh, that new Dire Burnout Masterpiece toy, for example, is just like hot AF,
Is that MP53 plus B?
Don't. It is. My God, the numbering.
Yeah.
Is that an equation you just put
Right. They're trying to recreate pi. But yeah, it all goes back to those days of Diaclone, really. And as you say, it's kind of got that exotic root, doesn't it? It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you must recall that period of time when you started discovering all the different colors that existed pre-Transformers. Red Sunstreaker was the one that I think everyone kind of knew because they were so available in North America as well that it was just on eBay all the time. It just felt like, oh, there's another toy line that did a Red Sunstreaker. But then when you looked into it, you realize that's where Blue Streak comes from. And there's a yellow Trailbreaker and a red Trax. And that's where Red Trax comes from. And then Powered Convoy is a thing you learn about. And all of these discoveries one by one. Then you look at it as a whole. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but there was a picture floating around for decades of a BotCon Japan show from the late 90s where a very, very prominent Japanese collector had displayed his car robot collection back in 1998 or something like that. And he had everything. Like back then, he had everything. And this is something that modern collectors have been trying for 20 years to recreate and are still not there. So this fella had a black Trax from Finland back in the 90s. You know?
Oh, wow.
And he got it at that show that you were from, that BotCon Europe show. So he bought it there.
Did he? Oh, yeah, I think you mentioned it before, maybe. So that was known back then, was it? I thought the whole black Trax thing was more recent than that.
No, it wasn't known where he got it from. He just said, and I quote, "It's not Diaclone and it's from Europe."
Right.
Because in his mind, Diaclone was Japan. It was a Takara thing in Japan. It wasn't any of the foreign markets. And of course, he also had like chromed Fair Lady and Jazz toys, you know, the campaign prizes that, of course, we've now had e-hobby reissues of. And so that collection was on show. And that was just like, I wouldn't be surprised if collectors had printed that image and stuck it up on their wall. I mean, it was that iconic an image to Diaclone collectors and variant collectors. And it was just an aspirational thing that people still chase today. And it's funny because nowadays it's probably harder than ever to achieve that because of the competition and the financial requirement. And back in those days, back in the early 2000s when I started looking for them, they were the most affordable they'd ever been. But then you'd go on eBay and you'd type Diaclone, and the first thing that Poxy eBay would tell you is, did you mean disc 1? Because it didn't know what you were talking about. And there were no listings. I mean, Paul and I still joke about, oh, do you mean disc 1? Like when people come up to him at his show and say, do you have any Diaclone? And all you'd get is like weird Lou Reed CDs or something like that. And you'd get maybe one listing a month of a Diaclone car. Nowadays, you go onto eBay, there's tons of Diaclone cars on there. They're crazy expensive, and most of them are just mirror listings that someone's found on a Japanese auction site, and there's like 3 duplicate Red Sunstreaker listings on eBay.
Yeah, there's a lot of like some random launcher, isn't there, that pops up or something like that, or a fist and things, and it's like
loads of repros too.
You know, yeah.
My favourite are the ones where it's actually the G1 Transformers colours, and they're like, Diaclone, it's like, are you sure? You never, you're like, am I sure? If I was a Diaclone buyer, would I be like going, oh yeah, that's absolutely what that is?
Oh, there must be tons of that.
Yeah. I mean, for a long time, those Transformers colours were super unpopular. You know, no one wanted those. So they were always like crazy affordable, really, really all over the place. There were case finds of Italian versions, Japanese versions, and they wouldn't even touch like $150, $200 for totally case fresh, unused for years. Now, even those ones, like a regular Mirage Diaclone, it's the same color as the Transformers one. It's going to break more easily. It's €800 for that. And people are looking at that going, maybe I'll buy that this month. You know, it's an acceptable price now for something that wouldn't sell for 150 10, 15 years ago.
Well, we had the discussion just this week, didn't we, with someone we know about who's out in Japan, and they were saying about, oh, is this a good price for a Japanese Takara Prowl? And it's a Transformers Prowl.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, yeah, but do you want to pay more just for the box? I mean, it's the same toy ultimately in the cardboard. But I guess at least with Diaclone, you know, there were some differences, weren't there? I mean, obviously some of them had remolding and things going into Transformers, didn't they? But I'm sure some of them must have been identical apart from Autobot logos, maybe?
I think there's probably something on all of them that if they're unstickered, maybe something like Jazz would throw somebody.
Yeah.
Because like if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, I would probably struggle to identify a Diaclone Jazz next to a pre-rub Jazz. If the pre-rub didn't have any Transformers logos on it, it's quite hard to tell. But most of them have tells, you know.
Yeah.
And of course they come with super working rocket launchers, and they'll have a Dinonaut pilot with them. And of course the packaging for them is completely different to Transformers as well. You know, a lot of people collect Japanese G1 because they love the styro inserts. And of course all the Diaclone cars came with styro inserts and much more compact little boxes. Sometimes really cool box artwork, sometimes just photographs of toys. It's funny because Jonathan Ross was talking about that as well in his tour. He was like, he loved these old toys where there was artwork of the toy doing something crazy dynamic that the actual figure could not achieve.
Oh yeah,
compared
all
to
the time.
photographs of toys that you get on boxes now. But incidentally, most of Diaclone was photographs of toys
Yeah.
instead of, especially the car robots, like a majority have like photographs and some have art.
Transformers was the ultimate for that, wasn't it? All the drawings and things, the box art that they did was just
Bloody broadside. I mean,
yeah, it was super dynamic. And then the toys are brick. So
have you ever seen Chrome Dome's instruction sheet? Like, have you seen what the instruction sheet has Chrome Dome doing on the front? Turning his head, bending a knee, looking up and down. Nah.
Wow, breakdancing.
ダイアクロンレスキュー隊員、彼らの乗る車はロボットに代わり救助に活躍する。メカが光るダイアクロンカーロボット。
And of course, like Diaclone toys, these Diaclone cars, they didn't have the names like Mirage and Sunstreaker and Ratchet, Prowl. All this was added by Hasbro and Marvel, specifically Bob Budiansky. So back then, there weren't sentient robots. These were piloted mecha, piloted vehicles in the war between Earth and the Warudas. Now, I sent you lads something this week, didn't I? To have a little look at. And I think it's perfect.
Homework.
Yeah, homework. So big shout out to Brian Blackwell, aka Necronometron on Twitter, who translated the Diaclone Car Robot manga from 1983. And he scanned it all in. So there's 6 issues of this from 1983 called Change Squadron. And it's the story of how the Warudas sort of came to Earth and wanted to usurp their free zone energy or free zone power through the use of these Diaclone Car Robots. What did you make of this comic?
I really liked it. I like how much the scientist guy, the old man, looked like Dr. Light from Microman. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, it's Dr. Light from Microman.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. It's really interesting, completely different to what we know.
Yeah, it's super good fun, isn't it? I loved it. I mean, it's hilarious, can I say, in many, many ways. It's some of the just giant, massive speech bubbles with electricity coming out of them and all of this. And just some of the stuff they're kind of shouting as they're in battle, free zone metallic charge and all of this. And it's, I don't know, it reads like a comic in the style of the Robots in Disguise 2001 cartoon. Just constant like battle cries and shouting stuff. And
they say car robots throughout as well.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Oh, it's the most powerful car robot, and the new car robots go and all of this. Car robots super change. This is just one page. This is just one page.
You're looking at it right now.
Yeah, I'm literally looking at it now.
It's basically like they start off at this racing event, don't they, where this driver has just won the race in this souped up Lamborghini Countach, and then all of a sudden aliens are attacking. And he's like, what's going on? And his team boss is like, just get back in the car, press that button.
The dialogue in the comic is like a sound chip, isn't it? From a toy. Like all of these lines, everything they say, it's like someone is just pressing a sound chip and it's just generating dialogue for the comic.
It really is. My favourite bit actually is where it's the skids. It's the Honda City Turbo toy, that suddenly transforms, and the little pilot. What's his name? The little lad.
Cujo, something like that. No, hang on, it can't be Cujo because Cujo is the dog film.
Yoku.
There we go.
So yeah, the little lad Yoku, when he's he says, okay, let's transform or whatever, and it obviously turns into the robot mode that we would know as skids, and just the speech bubble or whatever says, car robot change. This model changes from Honda City Turbo to City Robo in just 0.2 seconds, and it's like
that's an advert.
It really is. But it has, again, it's got that kind of early Marvel Transformers vibes to it as well, of just like, we've got to advertise toys, lads, and I love it.
I really like that bit that you pointed out yesterday where he first gets in the vehicle and the dude's yelling at him, press that button, you can fight them. He's like, what? It's a car. And then he turns it into a robot and he goes, oh, what does this button do? And he fires off the fists and he goes, yeah, rocket fist. Oh, now I'm out of fists.
Yeah. No more fists.
Yeah. And then there's like the shoulder rockets and everything. But did you notice like the progressive issues of this are basically the aliens attacking, like, oh no, their cars turned into robots. We must rethink this. Okay, now we're going to send these guys. Oh no, they've used this other laser. Oh, we better rethink this. And then they go back every time. And then they send their own impervious robot, which somehow the Earth forces realize that just below his neckline, his collar is his weakness.
Yeah.
So then they destroy that. And it goes back to, oh, right, This time he doesn't have a collar. It just goes in full impervious armor. It's just
100%.
one-upping each other.
It's
for 6
hilarious
issues.
to see actually how close in some ways it flies to some of the Transformers fiction, because it's that whole kind of, oh, the good guys have got some tech, while the bad guys are going to replicate it and use it for their own nefarious deeds. You know, it's,
By Tuesday.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, you've got new massive humanoid shells with organic exosuits or whatever. We're going to do the same thing, but turn them into monsters. You know, it's that kind of.
It's very Headmasters and Target Masters, isn't it?
Yeah,
the rebirth. Well, this is exactly what happens in the show, isn't it? They're like, they've got Headmasters, we better have them too.
It absolutely is. Yeah, exactly.
None of this makes any sense.
None of it makes sense, but it's brilliant, and I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. And can I say, it was great fun. Actually, I really kind of got into the idea that these were non-sentient robots. So
yeah. And how good was the art? Like, there's one splash of the Fair Lady Z, the blue streak, which is just beautiful, isn't it? It's just that when it first appears as a robot. Yeah, so the main protagonists are like the Sunstreaker, the Contash Robo, and then you got the Skids, the Honda City, the City Robo, and then the Fair Lady Z, the blue streak, gets a fair run in a few of the issues. And then we get the Trailbreaker, the four-wheel drive Hilux. And then we finish off with, you know, the all-conquering, what was it? You said it was like a silver Fair Lady Z Formula Racer.
Silver.
It's basically Smokescreen in silver.
Yeah, love the idea. I have to say, that artwork is gorgeous when Smokescreen first appears. And then when it changes into the robot mode, stunning. Absolutely ridiculously good art.
It's amazing seeing those toys, you know, in that kind of art, because we've seen, like, you had Ladybird books, didn't they, where they base it on the toys, but it looks very different to this. Just seeing them in motion like that and moving about. And even one of the panels, one of the Datsuns was drawn like the box art, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's that same pose.
That's right, yeah. When it's doing all the, like, stats, like, this is what this part of the figure does. Did you notice that the driver is 14 years old? The kid is 14.
That's every Japanese anime. It's all the Gundam. It's always, they're all like 5 years old or whatever. It's always weird little teenagers.
What's he doing racing a Lamborghini?
I mean, so many questions.
You know. But that gave story to these toys. You know, you can compare that to Marvel Comics and having a fully fleshed out cartoon. Actually, I don't know if you should describe the Sunbow cartoon fully fleshed out, but yeah, so there was some fiction. And when you bought the Diaclone Car Robots, that, you know, they typically originally just came with catalogs of or just a sheet. What's this toy with, like, the technical specifications of, like, say, the Red Sunstreaker. And then on the back, there would just be an advert for the other toys that are coming out. But eventually, like, the later releases started coming with more comprehensive catalogs with, like, the Diaclone story, you know, which talks about the dinosaur robots and the triple change robots and the Insectors and the Warudas and stuff. So it became a lot more of a, again, to use that phrase, fleshed out release. But to begin with, it was pretty sparse. You know, it was like, you got the car, you got the parts, and you got a little sheet and some stickers.
Now sod off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's interesting though. But it's fair to say, isn't it, that actually, just kind of going back a step maybe, but the packaging and all the paperwork and stuff is a fair deal for a lot of Diaclone collectors, right?
Oh, huge. Yeah.
Like, you know, obviously we're saying, you know, well, not why, but, oh yeah, you would pay a lot more for a Diaclone Mirage and it's going to break more easily than you would for a Transformers one. But it's probably worth just tapping into, because I'm sure some people just won't get this point, but it's worth, isn't it, exploring why that is and what the difference is. Even though the toy itself maybe doesn't have that many physical differences, it's something about the kind of actual state of it in the packaging, isn't it? And the whole kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Prestige?
Prestige? I was going to say prestige, yeah.
Yeah, that's always been a word that's been associated with Diaclone, sometimes positively, sometimes detrimentally, to be honest. Because it's always been seen as an elitist pursuit. Even back in 2001, when people were buying G1, Diaclone was considered expensive and rare, even though by today's standards, you know, like, unused Diaclone back then cost less than a used G1 car today sometimes, you know? So it's always had that image to it. And yeah, because a lot of people look at it and say, well, what are you really paying for? Mirage is a good example, because Mirage's box doesn't have artwork. It's on the front. It's just got a picture of the robot mode. And then you see the car from the side and the styro packaging. Very, very typical styro layout for a Diaclone or Japanese Transformer. But then on the top of the box and the bottom of the box, you have really cool stuff. You've got super awesome artwork of the Mirage car with like a cutaway showing the inner workings of it. And on the underside of the box, you've got like a top elevation, a side elevation, and a front view. Again, like technical specifications and numbers and details. And on the back, it's like cross cells. And I remember scanning this art for the Legacy book. So you can actually see some of this stuff like the Sideswipe box and the Jazz box, because they are really beautiful. There's some lovely artwork on the top and the bottom and the back of these boxes, even though the front doesn't necessarily show that off. And of course, they're all really standardized sizes, so they stack beautifully. But yeah, a lot of it is prestige, knowing that you have in your collection the very first ever use of the Mirage mold or the Jazz mold or the Fairlady mold. So yeah, that's an element to it as well. But also colors are why people chase them. Really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you do see, don't you, some incredible collection photos. There was one we saw recently, but sort of all the cars stacked. Super satisfying seeing all the boxes lined up like that, just because it's not the same thing, of course, in terms of collecting, but it's still sort of that masterpiece car vibe, isn't it? Where you see all the cars,
for sure, yeah,
all the boxes stacked in that same way. I really think they kind of tapped into that a bit with Masterpiece in that way, which is very clever. But then, I mean, you see some collections, don't you, with like people have got like 6 wheel jacks and stuff like that. It's just mad.
That is mad. But I mean, I remember discovering that some Italian collectors were going for like what they call the final display, which was a boxed version, a loose robot, and a loose car. And when you're talking about something like Marlboro Lancia, which is the Marlboro wheeljack that we now know as exhaust, so that's a completely exclusive Japanese Diaclone color scheme. On the G1 wheeljack toy, it's like a Marlboro cigarette packet as a car with a unique head sculpt as well, which you can all see now in Masterpiece Exhaust and Generation Select. He had 3 of those. And back in 2011, that was like a multiple $1,000 exercise just for that one toy. And this dude had done it for all the cars. And you just thought to yourself, what are you doing? What is your end game? Well, the dude's opened a museum now. So I guess that was his end game.
Who got the last laugh there then?
But then people come along later which do that with like, they have 6 boxed examples. And you think like, what are you doing? Why? Why have you spent like approaching $50,000 on that one figure? And then they do it for all the other ones too. And that's kind of sometimes where the bad rep for Diaclone collecting comes from, because it's such a high entry price that sometimes the people who can get into it are really wealthy, and they go to those sort of lengths to stand out in the community.
Yeah, I see a lot of multiples. I see that as being like a real thing. And
there are a lot of variations though, like loads of variations. I remember I used to have something like 5 box Diaclone Mirages because they were all different. Like one of them had, Citans on the side. One of them said Ligier on the side. One of them had a sticker that said Ligier. One of them came in a different Italian box. One of them came in a Finnish box. And one of them was the Giustra with just the incredible exclusive Giustra artwork, which is totally exclusive. So sometimes the multiples that you're looking at, you may not notice, like the window cut is different from one release to the next, and people collect those variants as well. It's a variations minefield. Just the car robots in Diaclone.
Yeah, interesting. I got to tell you, that Marlboro wheeljack, that's exhaust or whatever, that's the kind of thing that would definitely appeal to me more, just because it's so unique. It's just so different.
It's always been special.
Yeah.
It's always been special. I remember people thought it was a fake the first time people started sharing pictures. There's a Dutch collector called Devi who used to have a webpage.
Yeah.
He advertised it. And one of our listeners, Anthony from TFU, he's had one for absolutely years. So, man, it's just one of those things where you just wish you'd gotten into it at the time.
Yeah.
Because it's so inaccessible today, while it's so much more available today. So like you're talking about our friend going off to shops in Japan and posting pictures, like there's Diaclone Car Robots in a number of the stores.
Yeah.
And, they are available, but they're just priced so obscenely now because they can,
Yeah. Well, that's the nature of it, isn't it? So, and like Blue Streak and all of those sorts of things that I think would be desirable to a kind of lower tier of, I don't want to say lower tier sounds terrible, and I'm including myself in that lower tier. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean lower tier in terms of anything other than budget, I guess.
It's always been about budget, always.
Yeah, they would be appealing, but at the level they're at, forget it.
Yeah. Can you imagine people spending $300 on a Transformers toy back in 2001? Like, that would have been weird for most people. And yet, that's what Diaclone collectors were paying at the time for that exhaust, or a Blue Streak, or a Police Sunstreaker, which is the real standout for me, that one. But it's always been like most people wouldn't pay that for toys back then. And it's always just inflated with people's increasing age, budget, and disposable income. Like today, people pay multiple hundreds for Generations toys.
Mm.
You know, they paid it for HasLab like 3 times in the space of 4 years. And yet these may have been the same collectors who 20 years ago would have said, you are crazy for spending $250 on a toy, which is the same as a Transformer, but in a different box. So it's relative.
I think it is relative, and it all depends what your collection's about at the end of the day, doesn't it? Because if you're all about Diaclone, for example, and that's the focus, you were saying about liquidating, you'd have to liquidate your whole collection or whatever, and what that would get you in terms of Diaclone. But that would be a choice, wouldn't it? You'd be prioritizing one aspect over all the others and saying, actually, no, this is what I'm going after.
Yeah.
And it's not as immediate, I guess, the kind of collecting thrills, because you're not going to get like however many figures, toys people pick up in a year or whatever it is. Like if you're collecting G1, there's a lot that you can kind of hoover up fairly quickly at a low budget price. And you get that kind of immediacy of like, oh, I got a jump starter, I got this, that, the other. There isn't really that in Diaclone as such, is there? There's not that sort of entry level kind of tier, if you like. You're sort of immediately going in at a higher level of spending and budget.
And competition.
And competition, right.
There's fewer of these items out there because they're exclusive to a region mostly. And then there's so many more people who will pay more than you think they will for a particular quality, even if it's used. Like used stuff. If you decided today that you were going to do it, you'd have to wait ages to find an opportunity. You'd have to wait for someone to sell up and you'd be there first, because you're not going to win auctions straight away unless you just massively overspend, because there are people currently in Diaclone Car Robot collecting who will buy anything they see on auction just to be the one to have it, to have control of the market, and to be able to say, if you want this figure, I'm going to win it with my budget. And then if you've got something I need, you trade it to me for this thing that you need. They almost hold it ransom, or they make sure they're the one to win it at the highest price. Then they flip it in their US Facebook store or at conventions for more. And they are the ones who dictate who have it, how much does it go for. And you have to somehow try to find a way of weaseling in between this established forces to build a collection. And it's really, really difficult. And it's very off-putting for a lot of people. And it's almost a shame that this is the veneer that people will see. This is the shop window that people will see, instead of everything that is super cool about buying these toys.
Yeah, that is a shame.
It's always well beyond anything I've even ever considered buying. For those sort of reasons, it's just so expensive. It's so far removed from what I'm interested in. I love the designs, and if they were affordable, I'd love to have them. But because I know the price and sort of the amount that goes into it, it's never even just occurred to me, look for one of these or anything like that. It's just straight away, it's automatically just off there. So when I see a picture of it, that's nice, and then move on.
That's why eHobby reissues were fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Those exclusives we got through eHobby, because it allowed people to own them at an affordable price, brand new, with the Transformers take.
Yeah.
One of the things I've always loved is I get to enjoy them through like your photos and articles and talking to you about them. So I get to enjoy them actually in a different way as I ever would have owning them, because I get to hear the history, your excitement for them. Whereas for me, it's just like, it's just a yellow sideswipe. I'm very much in that camp of know what it is, but I get to enjoy it through you.
Yeah, but don't knock that. I mean, that's where my interest came from originally. I never collected Diaclone as a kid. I saw that as, yellow sideswipe. Isn't that wicked? I want that. And then I learned about the other things through other collectors. But yeah, my interest came from the same angle as yours initially.
Like my favorite thing about Diaclone is the adverts. I adore those adverts. It's like all the scenery, everything.
The Car Robot adverts, man. Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, it's just something that it just feels like you're saying there. It's not elitist. Sounds bad, but it's a different category of collecting from where I'm at, I would say.
Yeah, and I think the people who have been super long-term Diaclone collectors, I don't think they see themselves as elitist. It's just what they collect. These people were collecting them long before I knew what the word Diaclone meant,
Yeah.
It's become very impenetrable for someone who's not been immersed in it, anything like that. It's very difficult to break into.
Yeah, I could see that. I suppose what I will say is that some of it actually is not as it's not as off limits as I initially would have imagined it is. And I don't mean that in terms of the toys and buying the toys. I just mean in terms of understanding what some of the toys are about, or the information. Because you do approach it, I think, initially, and you're like, oh my god, there's how many versions of the Honda mold, and and it's all seems a bit daunting in terms of all this information.
Yeah, it's just a few facts.
Yeah, exactly.
You're absolutely right. Like we are in a chat with a lot of our friends from the UK who we go to the pub with, and I could show them like the arm of a Micron, and they'll tell me, yeah, that came out in these countries and it was released then, and they have all the facts
Oh,
about
that's
all.
incredible.
And they find it quite funny that I discover that something I like has 50 repaints, and they laugh at me because they know I'm going to buy them all. But then they won't know the name of that particular Diaclone. It's like, wait, which one was Prowl? Is it number 17 or 13 or what? And I'm like, well, I think if you just spent an afternoon and you were super interested, you'd learn it all because it's finite and it's just facts.
Yeah, it's not that
Just-
many
yeah.
toys actually.
No, right.
It's very easy to, I think, to get into sort of the history of it and what the toys are, because there aren't that many. You know, it's not that vast, but it is the money. The collector side of it feels very impenetrable.
And scarcity.
Yeah.
Another major thing is scarcity. Like you could go 5 years and not see a particular variant. It's just not turned up. That's why one collector, when he saw a photo in a Japanese storefront of a Diaclone Black Skids, the Black City Turbo, he got on a plane the next day, flew to Japan to buy it because he knew I may not see this for another half decade. And when I
Wow.
do, it's going to go for multiple thousands. I mean, that is a toy that I bought. I bought a Black Skids for like 60 quid.
Mhm.
I spotted it on a Chinese auction site and I just thought, is that what I think it is? And, you know, people weren't as in the know about every single site. Like a lot of collectors know Taobao now, but back then they didn't. And I just thought, I'll just give it a go. I'll give it a punt for 60 quid. And lo and behold, I owned probably the rarest Diaclone car for a year or two.
Huh.
And it was a wonderful thing. And
You sold it for more than 60 quid, I guess.
oh my goodness, yes. I sold it for an embarrassing amount of money because I could. And I realized that if I liquidated that, I could put a massive chunk of money down towards our first property in the future. And I could take my family on a 2-week holiday to an island, which they'd never forget. And we've never forgotten it. And it's brought us much more comfort than that Diaclone Black Skids ever was. And if I'm making you believe that, I'm doing a great job because my God, I miss that Black Skids.
That's the other thing about selling them for that amount of money, though, when you've got those memories. Part of it is knowing it's going to be so difficult to get that again.
Yeah,
that you're never going to get it at that price again
Never
that you got it for. It's always going to be expensive. So
Exactly. It's like having a train ticket or something that once you jump off the train, you're never ever going to be able to get back on it again. This is it. You know, you've got to really want to sell that. And to be honest, I mean, I get that sometimes now with some sales and things where you sell something and you're like, oh man, I really shouldn't have done that. You know, and you do kind of get that sense of regret. I can't even imagine with some of this stuff, honestly. It's like another level.
Yeah, the biggest shame about it is that it's all so cool. And we should probably focus on that element of it a lot more because, yeah, the conversation naturally drifts to price and scarcity when it comes to this stuff. But what is it that makes it cool? I mean, I've got on my list of things to talk about today, notable variants. So we've mentioned Exhaust already, the marble wheeljack. What else really stands out to you from Diaclone Car Robots exclusives that are just amazing?
I mean, Blue Streak is the one,
Right.
isn't it? That's like,
absolutely.
you know, straight off the bat.
Yeah.
That for sure. I was going to say Black Skids for me is right up there. In terms
But a lot of people don't know that that's a Diaclone toy. Now they do.
Yeah.
But, you know, rewind 5 years.
Was there a silver one? Because I saw it in the comic when you mentioned the silver one. That genuinely.
Crosscut.
Oh, sorry. Smokescreen. Was there a silver smokescreen?
Oh, right.
No. There was a
You mentioned that in the comic, and that really threw me. I was like, I've never seen that.
Yeah. They might have been planned because there was a gold smokescreen, an all-chromed gold prize, and it was a prototype of a prize. So they never actually ran the campaign that someone could win, but they did create the toy, and that was on display in a shop in Japan for a few years, and a collector bought it for a hideous amount of cash and then sold it for many, many magnitudes worse hideous amount. But yeah, so one is out there, and it's a Diaclone smokescreen, gold-plated, gold-chromed, and it is as incredible as you imagine it to be. That is in the US collection now, or was. So yeah, that one exists. Maybe they planned a silver one too.
Yeah, I guess some of the other ones that I would think of, I mean, Tiger Track is the obvious one, as you said.
Yep.
Red Sunstreaker. In some ways, it's the ones that you can't get as an e-hobby that probably stick out even more. You know,
Police Sunstreaker Cordon,
yeah,
that is now called, is really hard to find. And of course, they're yellow, and there's probably very few unyellowed versions of that toy out there now.
Yeah, I think for that reason, the ones that really stick out to me are, so Exhaust.
Yeah.
Good to give him his Transformers names. Blue Streak, Police Sunstreaker, Red Sunstreaker, Black Skids.
Cartoon Blue Streak.
Yep. Black hooded fair lady, yep.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
Which is actually more scarce than the Blue Streak, funnily enough.
Yeah.
It's probably the one that gets the less press, but it is it's probably harder to find one of those than a Blue Fair Lady. There's always a Blue Streak for sale somewhere. Like There's one that's been circling Japanese auctions for like a year now because it's priced like obscenely.
Yeah.
I think it's
I've
like
seen it.
180,000 yen or something. But that's the thing. Like, I own one of those. And now that I look back on when I bought it back in 2020, I had no right to win that at the price I did because I looked at all the ones either side of it and they were insane. But that one, that week, I don't know what happened. It was just available. And it's the same way I got a Yellow Trailbreaker and a Battle Convoy, the original Optimus Prime, back in 2015 or 2014. I think I bid on Christmas Day and no one else had bid. And I got a Yellow Trailbreaker, the cartoon Blue Streak, and Prime for under 500 quid shipped as a lot, all boxed.
Wow.
And that was like, did that really happen? But yeah, it's like this random occurrences between years of inaccessibility. You just got to be on it all the time. It's got to be your primary focus.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is the requirement of, because of the scarcity of this stuff. Like, can you imagine if, I don't know, you check daily, let's say, for some auction listings, you've got all the different sites that you check. I mean, we know some of this. We know some of what this kind of life is like. But you check all of these different sites in Japan or wherever every day. And then one day, you're just like a bit hungover or whatever. And you're like, sod it, not today. And that's the day that, like,
Right.
the thing that you're looking for years pops up.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine how annoying that would be.
But it's great that it still happens. There's always a chance that you'll find one at a thrift shop.
Yeah.
You know, you might find one in a UK charity shop. It's possible. I said in very early episode, there was an old couple who had a sealed stepper. I could see their home from outside my window in North London. And it just been sat there for 30 plus years. It can and will happen repeatedly. These toys, I mean, they imported them into the US as well, Japanese Diaclone. There are shops, I think, in California which had Japanese Diaclone cars, and that's where some people bought them.
Somebody found, was it the Redstone Streaker Diaclone in a thrift store in America? Was it last year or the year before?
Oh, that's going to happen loads. It was released in America.
Yeah, someone found a box one because it was all over Twitter. It must have been like a couple of years ago. And I just remember being like, wow, that's an amazing find. It was either the police on the streaker or the Redstone Streaker, but I remember it was in a box, completely stuffed, because at first I thought, there's no way you've just found that. They had loads of photos of him picking it up off the shelf, like very excitedly. Like some obscenely low price as well.
Yeah.
It's like,
Man.
I dream of days like that, honestly. I dream of it.
Pretty sure I've had that dream of just like walking into a random store and it's like, it's all here. Never happens.
Is that what happens to you when you walk into your spare room? Just it's all here. It's all of Transformers.
Yeah, not all a Diaclone though.
This week.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Right, well, it's that time for the bit of the pod where we're going to talk about our sponsors. And first up, as ever, we've got TFSource.com. Check them out for all your Transformers and third-party needs. And we're going to have a little look at what they've got in stock or available for pre-order right now. What's caught your eyes, gentlemen?
I'm going to go for Terran Twitch Deluxe Class Transformers Earthspark.
Ooh, Earthspark, eh?
So it's Twitch. It's the drone.
Right.
And I don't know whether it's because the product photography has a white picket fence and a barn in the background. It just looks so good.
Yeah.
And the drone mode is basically, it's this mix between Laserbeak, Thrust, and Shockwave.
Right.
It's just really cool looking. And, you know, I've only seen the first 2 episodes of Earthspark at this point, but I really liked her in the show. And I loved her modes as well. And the toy looks excellent.
It really does, actually. Do you know what? It's funny. I hadn't seen the alternate mode at all, the pictures of the toy. And now that I've just looked at it, I'm like, that actually looks great.
Yeah. So much character in the robot mode as well.
Yeah.
And I've just noticed the old Shockwave eye is right slap bang on her belly. So that's really nice and visible too. Really nice looking toy. That's full of character. I like that.
Yeah, really into that. I really want to watch the rest of Earthspark. Got to get on with that.
Same.
What about you, Liam?
I am currently looking at the Studio Series 89 Thundercracker, which is from the Bumblebee movie.
Oh, right, yeah, the blue one.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun mold. I love those Bumblebee designs. They're like my favourite modern Transformers because they just fuse vintage designs with something new and different.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's pretty cool.
It looks great, yeah. They've done a few versions of that, and I saw they've done a green one, Thrust, was it?
Yeah, Thrust.
Thrust, yeah, with a little pointy cone head.
Right.
Did quite like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our friend of the pod, Jason Wagner, sent me the star screen for my birthday, which is excellent.
That's very
Thank
nice.
you to him. Very grateful.
Well done, Jason.
Yeah.
Lovely chap is old Jason, isn't he?
I'm just wondering why we haven't seen a Skywarp yet. Oh, Jason's the best, by the way. Yeah, Jason's absolutely the best.
Magnificent beard.
Yeah. Terrible Irish accent.
Oh my god, that was a highlight of TFN though. I haven't laughed that hard in years. Listening to this thick Scottish accent trying to do an Irish accent, absolutely brilliant. Well, yeah, okay, fantastic. Well, I may as well share with you mine, which I've completely forgotten what it is. But oh no, it's on the main page. It's I was going to choose the old Fans Hobby, their new naval commander,
Power Commander.
Power Commander. Yeah, I quite like the name, Power Commander.
Tis brilliant.
Yeah, it looks terrific.
The fans Hobby Lobby are back.
Oh,
Yeah.
with good reason, man.
Oh yeah, with very good reason indeed. Looks terrific. I've actually got it sat right next to me in box. I shall be checking it out soon. Just a few things to tie up before cracking on with that. But yeah, just beautiful, honestly. And this is such a great toy anyway. Those
It really
colours.
is, yeah.
Look, your pictures of it, Maz, have been terrific.
I had a lot of fun with it. And I love the Minicon, even though it's just as infuriating as the
Yeah.
previous colour, but it looks so good in gold.
Yeah. Was that Corona spark plug?
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, now I've got all the Micron booster, so I've just littered it with Armada Minicons. I'm like, yeah, now I'm doing it right.
I saw that, yeah, with him like wearing a car on his chest and things like that, on his shoulder or whatever.
Yeah. You could cover him in Lambos. You could just wear Lambo armor.
Actual Cobra.
Yeah. Why not? Just stick a load of cars on there, isn't it? Brilliant.
True.
Cool. Well, that's what's in stock or available for pre-order at TFSource right now. So do check them out. Let's move over to Kapow. What's caught your eyes here, lads?
Right. Okay. I think I've picked this before for TFSource, but I'm actually really happy to see it on Kapow as well, because for some of our listeners, that's going to be a lot easier to get a hold of. And it's the Diaclone DA94 Waruda Legion. I've got to say this right. Vajra.
Oh, yeah. You have picked this before.
Yeah. So this thing is
You and
just...
your Vajra.
I initially wasn't so keen because it had like this really demonic horned head, but then there's the mode where it's just this winged, massively long 21 centimeter beast, and it just looks insane. And it's in dark cathode colors, which is the best colors.
It looks amazing. That big, long moth mode with the huge tail or whatever. It
That's
just looks
wonderful.
I'm just in awe of it. Honestly, I can't wait for this thing to arrive. All of those Warudas, cheeky as they may be, have just been so beautiful, and just to do in photographs and things, it's just a dream.
Yeah. The powerful final form mode, which is composed of huge wings and destructive weapons and limb unit parts, realizes a volume that surpasses the first series Waruda Legion Ripper. I mean, with a promo like that, how could you say no?
Yeah, I love everything you just said.
Plus horns.
All right, mate. Well, yeah, that's a good choice. How about you, Liam?
I'm going with Dr. Wu Energy Dragon, which is a tiny, tiny Triptychon.
Love it.
Oh, yeah. That does look cool.
So good.
It's so little, even if it's got all the modes, and fast track as well, isn't there? A little tiny fast track.
It looks a little bit like a gopher, may I say.
Can you connect the Scramble City leaders?
They should have called it Gordon. That's what they should have called it.
Yeah.
Gordon the Gopher.
Right. And everyone would have gotten that. Yeah.
Energy Gordon.
I would have. That's all that matters. Could have a Ed the Duck version.
Sure. Can you connect your Scramble City guys?
I'm not sure. I would possibly guess it might be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I think so. Probably. He does look great. I like his little city mode and things like that. He even comes with a little fast track.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just looks cool. It's got a really fun style to him as well.
That city mode is excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not even as big as one of the tiny rocks it's photographed on.
Yeah, who's living in that?
There's even got little tiny knee guns in there as well.
Yeah.
In the city mode. Cool.
Brilliant stuff. All right, I'm going to go a bit off-piste. I'm going to choose the Transformers times G.I. Joe, Bumblebee, or Striker, and Stalker mashup. And this is just purely on the back of me having only just recently received the Megatron, the His Tank Megatron, and I'm just in love with it. I think it's brilliant, honestly.
Are you in awe of it?
I'm in awe of it. There it is. Yes, hiss. But I don't know what to say about it, really. I'm looking at it right now.
You sound like a Vajra when you hiss.
No comment. I'm moving swiftly on from that, I can tell you. My God, Liam's embarrassed. Look at him. He's just embarrassed by what you just said there. But
it's a rare occasion where I'm speechless.
He's blushing, bless him. But no, I don't know what to say about this Megatron, really, because, do you know, I heard so many complaints about it before I got it in hand. People were like...
That's unlike Transformers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Transformers fans Didn't like it necessarily, but I had lots of people going, "Oh, it's all hollow and all of this." It's great, honestly. It's good fun to transform.
Wasn't that because there's a Megatron in him?
There is, yeah. It is a bit shell formery. It's fair to
It
say.
has to seat a person though, so it has to be hollow for the person to fit
Yeah.
inside the cockpit.
That's the thing. I think what people are kind of missing is that when it's in its HISS tank mode, it's like a perfect replica of a G.I. Joe toy, as a G.I. Joe toy is. And it's the same exact scale as a G.I. Joe HISS tank toy. It looks like one as well, other than the fact that you can kind of see a bit of the robot mode feet. But they've done a remarkably good job. And I think the Bumblebee looks the same. And it looks honestly stunning in robot mode as well. And because it's the scale for G.I. Joe figures with all the O-rings and that, it fits blooming Action Masters as well. So you can have a little mini Megatron piloting a big Megatron.
That was a great photo.
I was just honestly like having the best time. And so I can't wait for more of that with Bumblebee. And there's rumours of a Soundwave happening now as well.
Yeah.
So dead into that. Love it.
I keep seeing the Bumblebee in my local Forbidden Planet, the All Striker. Oh, they've got one in the window, and every time I walk past it, I'm getting more and more drawn to it.
Yeah. I just think if you like G.I. Joe, which I do, yeah, it's great, honestly. So that's mine. So yeah, do check them out. kapowtoys.co.uk and tfsource.com. And thank you very much to both of those for sponsoring the pod, as always.
We now return to the Transformers.
The first half of the episode was very much talking about the rarity and the cost of entry and like sort of the mythology around these Diaclone Car Robots. But for anyone listening who doesn't actually know what they include, we should do like a little rundown of actually what was the toy line. In Japan, there was Red Sunstreaker and Police Sunstreaker. You had Ratchet, which is still an ambulance, and white and red, but you also had a black Ironhide, which has now seen release as, is it DK2 Guard or DK3 Guard? One of those two.
Something like that, yeah.
Then you had Trailbreaker, that came next, and that was available in black with yellow stickers on the side that never made it anywhere else apart from Japanese Diaclone, but also in blue, which we've now had as DK2 Breaker, I think, in Generation Selects. And you got a yellow Trailbreaker, which is probably the most eye-catching difference in most of the Diaclone Car Robots. Have you guys ever seen the yellow vintage Diaclone Trailbreaker?
Well, in pictures, not in hand.
Yeah, photos.
Yeah.
This thing is gorgeous. Absolutely. I mean, it's got real strong nacho cheese energy, with this red highlights and stuff, but it's really fantastic. And that's a super desirable one, obviously, because it's so far removed from anything Transformers-y. Then you've got what we now know as the crosscut and reboost mold of skids. That came first. It came in red and silver. And then we had Hoist, which came in blue and red in Diaclone in Japan. And then in foreign countries, they also had it in green, and it had the Wrecker text on the side. Then after that, we had Blue Streak. And this is where the blue streak comes from. The first release of this toy ever was in blue and silver. And that's where the artwork for it comes as well, because that particular release in Japan had artwork. And it was the blue streak artwork that we have on Transformers Blue Streak boxes, and is really the start of the myth. And of course, you get the black hooded one in the cartoon one.
I always thought it was really fascinating, that situation with the different colours of Blue Streak and everything, and just the fact that actually you never got a cartoon accurate toy in the Transformers toy line. It's like just a weird situation. I find it really fascinating that you had the blue one that informed the box art that we never got in Transformers, and you had the silver and black one, the grey and black one or whatever, that informed the cartoon that we also never got in Transformers. And the fact that the Transformers line made up its own toy that was a reference to nothing. It's just it's sort of, I don't know how it goes, not that wrong, because it's a beautiful situation, but I guess in many ways all of the confusion that you've had for the next 40 years all spins out from that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's crazy because it just becomes a myth, doesn't it? And
yeah,
a legend. And then you obviously got the Takara reissue of the was it non-core where you got the anime streak, or was that the Transformers collection?
It was collector's edition, e-hobby.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. And that's sort of finally done then, isn't it? But even then, that's different to the Diaclone.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's hilarious to me how that sort of stuff happens.
And it's weird that it's Blue Streak of all characters as well, where he feels like such a minor character in the scheme of Transformers, like in the cartoon. But that toy is this whole history behind those toys. It's so legendary.
And it's sod's law that it's the one character with a colour in his name. Because like, if it was any other, like if it was Ratchet or...
Save it for the mini-sode, man. There's so much material.
I mean, we've
Yeah.
talked about it on there, haven't we? But
As we all know, it's because he talks really fast. It could nothing to do with the toy being blue or
Save it.
Save
it. But, that's another reason why people love these toys. It's because of the Transformers connection. Like, sure, we've talked about Yellow Trailbreaker or like Black Skids, but a lot of people simply don't care about those variants. But they care about Blue Streak.
Yeah.
And they care about like something like Blue Swoop.
That connection, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Transformers connection to it. It's the history of those characters you love and those toys and what they were actually like. And with that one, there's a real connection in a different way to any of the others, I think.
Yeah.
I think it is, yeah, absolutely. It
so
certainly is what it is for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why has Battle Convoy become the most rare and expensive new Diaclone toy? Because it's obviously meant to be Optimus Prime. And that one has sold out and gone crazy. Where others, which don't have Transformers connections in the new line, they're less rare, they're less expensive, but that one's gone insane.
Do you think there it's partly something to do with the trailer and the fact that it's got, it's got the Convoy logo on the side, doesn't it? Battle Convoy.
Oh, you're talking about vintage. I mean the new Diaclone toy.
Oh, right, of course. Right, okay.
Yeah, because obviously Battle Convoy is part of the car robot line as well. The original Optimus Prime is part of that line as well. Yeah, and I mean, that says in massive letters Diaclone across the side. It's just the most historic of historic toys, really, isn't it? Such a big deal. But it was like number 17 in the line, so it wasn't even like the first one. It was a year later. What else have we got in the line? We've got normal skids, blue skids, which also came in red, not reboost, but a red skids with the humanoid face, and then the black skids, obviously.
That always creates tons of confusion, doesn't it? It's the fact that you've got two red versions of not technically the same mold, but by a lot of people's standards, the same mold, bar a few little tweaks. But yeah, the fact that you get two red ones.
Yeah.
It's funny now that you get people saying the other one, and people are like, is that not reboost? And it's like, that's the world that we're in now, isn't it? If one of them has a name and one of them doesn't.
Right. So there's 5 versions of Diaclone Honda, if you want to get them all. Red crosscut version, the reboost, the crosscut, the skids, the Dia burnout, and the unnamed red skids as well. And they all come with a scooter, by the way. Even the blue one.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool addition. Then who we got? We got Inferno. We got the fire truck. And in its repaint, the truck crane grapple, which is one of the rarest in the line, believe it or not. That is missing from most Diaclone Car Robots collections.
And they were, forgive me for saying, but they had some remolding, didn't they? Like the face and stuff.
Which is total news to me. Discovered that last year thanks to Marco Salerno, Puff Marco, just posted a picture of a Transformers grapple head and a Diaclone grapple head, and they are different mold. It's like different proportions.
That's mad.
Yeah, absolutely stunned to find that out. I don't know if it's the case with Inferno, though.
Well, I don't know.
Must be.
I could see that you would really need them in hand or very good photography to tell the difference. I was talking with someone, I think you were in about it, about the keychain mini-bots recently and the fact that they're new molds of the original mini-bot molds. They're not the same molds, they're not the same toys, essentially. But honestly, holding them in hand, that was really my first experience of being like, okay, this is a new mold of a vintage classic toy. So I imagine that it's probably the same with those two. I saw those grapple pictures and I was like, that's fascinating, actually, that they did that.
I will check, because I actually do have a Diaclone grapple, so I will check that.
So you have both toys, and here you are going, oh.
Yeah. I never got round to actually photograph, because I never thought there was anything to photograph beyond the chrome neck arm parts on the Diaclone versus the Transformer, but yeah, learn something new. Then, of course, you got Prowl, got Hound, in their normal Transformers colours, so you got a police car fair lady, you got a green Astron 2000 Jeep Wrangler. There's the first release of Sideswipe, which was red, followed by the second release in yellow, which we know is Tiger Track now. There was Mirage.
A black one?
Right. Now, which one do you mean?
Well, I was talking about deep cover.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But there was actually a black one of the normal style as well.
Yes.
Which only one has ever been found. A mate of mine found it in Japan, in one of the stores. The guy said, I was going to put this on auction, but, because he's such a good customer, he goes there a lot and spends thousands regularly. So he just said, do you want to take this? And he didn't know what it was. It's like, well, that looks amazing. I'll take it. Brought it back and hit up me and my friend on WhatsApp and said, so what do you make of this? And we put it through its paces, man. We did like copyright checks, molding checks, and just photographed it alongside the deep cover because my friend had the deep cover Diaclone and the G2 Sideswipe. And it turned out that it was completely unique and it was 100% consistent with the Diaclone Sideswipe. So there's one out there which is just Sideswipe in black. The head's black like normal Sideswipe. The parts are white like normal Sideswipe. The launcher is normal, but it's got a black tab. So it's different to deep cover that we know with the black and the dark blue.
It could have been part swapped in any way?
No. There's unique colored parts on it that aren't part swappable.
Ah.
And it looks like a super, super rare variant or a product sample or something like that. We don't know the full story, but only one has been found so far. And it's incredible that someone owns that because that's going to be missing from every other Diaclone collection in the world practically.
It must be quite a feeling. I don't know, if you've spent whatever sum, you're talking about some of these Diaclone collections and things, and people are like, oh, I'm complete, like I've got it all, it's all here in the cabinet, and then there's a new discovery of something like that.
Yeah.
And
In
you must just be
2012,
like,
yeah. Absolutely, it's like that. And the best part is when my friend bought it and he had it for about a year or so, he then gifted it to my other mate to complete his collection. And that was
that's nice.
wonderful. That's just so nice that
Aw.
kind of stuff with this tier of toy still happens. Like, remember, they are toys and collecting is about people and about a community. So we wouldn't care as much about it if we weren't sharing it with people. So there's that. So yeah, we've talked about Mirage and Battle Convoy, which was the first ever use of the Optimus Prime mold. It's a huge deal. Metal-plated trailers, fantastic. Yeah, then there's Wheeljack, which was the normal Alitalia one that we saw in Transformers. And of course, the Marlboro variety with the new head, new stickers, Marlboro colors, which we now know is exhaust. Still one of the absolute blue ribbon Diaclone toys that very few people get to own or ever see. Then we have Clampdown, which is a police version of Sideswipe, which was exclusively a Diaclone toy for decades before we got the eHobby version. There's always a Clampdown now. You get a Masterpiece, you get Generations. It's just part of the furniture now.
It's hilarious, actually. Those eHobby reissues kind of spawned all of this sort of these becoming characters in a way, didn't they?
Yes.
And some of it Masterpiece, actually. Some of it like Spin Out and Corden sort of been more recent, haven't they, with Masterpiece, because they didn't get eHobby reissues. But
Reboost.
Yeah, Reboost is another one as well. And actually some of them in Generations, but the Generations ones aren't given names.
Yeah, you got DK2 Guard, you got DK2 Breaker, DK3 Guard. So they've got names.
Is that a name?
I guess. Breaker, Guard.
Lift Ticket was another one for the Red Horse, yeah.
Lift Ticket? Burnout.
That was a Generations one, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
BotCon originally, wasn't it?
It was BotCon
Hoist.
thing, yeah.
And then Burnout was BotCon as well, as the Black Skids.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Lift Ticket is a hilarious name.
Then there's the one we all know as Road Rage, the Trax mold in red, which appeared on the back of Transformers boxes. So that is also a super popular one.
And all over the front page.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, well done.
Come on.
Good. No, I applaud
Someone
it.
was gonna.
It's great. Well done.
You're going to mention that, the old Catatonia.
Right. Fantastic.
Classic.
It's whenever I talk about this, actually, whenever I think about Road Rage, all I can hear is her voice just going, this might be a case for Mulder and Scully, so all of that is hilarious.
You beat me to it. I was literally just about to throw it out.
There you go.
So was that your Welsh accent then? Is that what that was supposed to be?
Yeah.
And you're mocking Jason Wagner.
I was going to say, get Jason on here if you want to hear a really good Welsh accent. I bet he's amazing at it. That's amazing. Yes, you've had an Englishman doing a Welsh accent. Now get the Scotsman on. See what he makes of it.
We mentioned Grapple already. There's the Omnibots. Yeah, I'm just carrying on. We've got 3 Omnibots in the same colours.
Sail past it.
As the Transformers one. They were pitched as double changes, though, because they had that third mode, the attack car mode. Even though Trax did too, but that was just pitched as a car robot.
Double changes, as you know, my preferred name for a triple changing toy over triple changes, even though we are triple takeover. But because they double change.
Then you get into the super rarities. So Powered Convoy, the movie colors Magnus, movie trailer Magnus that some people call it, with the blue cab and the grey and red dark blue trailer. That came out multiple times in Diaclone and yet somehow still manages to be exceedingly expensive. It was released as a standalone with a regular grey trailer. Then it was released as another standalone with a chromed trailer. It's just incredible. I've owned that.
Can I talk about deep cover now?
Getting there, yeah. Go on.
Right.
Lead us into deep cover.
Well, they came with deep cover, didn't it? And with old red Mirage. Your favourite.
PCDX, in the PCDX set, which remains one of the absolute biggest grails of anything related to Transformers collecting. I don't know if Rossi has one, actually. That'd be interesting to know if Jonathan Ross has one of those.
Yeah. I'll hit him up on Twitter, find out.
I love that you keep calling him Rossi like it's your best mate as well.
Like I've
my
never had
best
any
bud,
contact with him.
Right,
yeah. It's funny.
But,
have you ever seen one?
Actually, no.
Wow.
Never in person. Even though I know people who own it. People in the UK who own it. And I've never seen one in person. I would consider that such a special moment if I got to see one in person.
Wasn't there one that popped up? Like, I say recently, I'm thinking in the last 3 years or something.
Yeah, but it was bought by the same person. And that guy now owns 3 of them. And he's going to buy all of them as they come out because he's got endless funds. And that's just what he's doing. But before that, other people were able to get them.
Yeah.
One dude got one in the 90s off eBay. It was amazing. He probably paid nothing for it. No one knew what it was. I love that happened. There's a dude in the UK who has one. He bought it from Japan when people weren't looking for this sort of thing. Quite a few in the US, actually. So there's probably more than 10 or 12 of them that I know are out there in collections. But it still remains one of the absolute greatest grails of any vintage Transformers related.
There must be more. There must be,
yeah. Because, I mean, I'm sure they're in Japan, but this would have been like the 3rd release of Power Convoy at this point.
Yeah.
So it would have been expensive.
End of run.
Big box. Space is a concern for people in Japan as well. I remember it was always being told. And by the 3rd time, maybe people have just had enough of it. And of course, it breaks because it's the chrome one with the sparkly blue plastic. It's usually broken, that toy, almost always. So that's a thing as well. I mean, they may have ended up in bins and stuff like that.
I was just going to say, it's horrible to think about, isn't it? But reality.
Yeah, I had one stolen off me, actually, the chrome trailered Power Convoy. I got one at BotCon 2007, and I had it in my bag, and I put my bag down in the lobby at BotCon, turned back, my bag was gone, and I never found it. Yeah, I thought we had packed it into the car, but then when we got to the other end, it just didn't come out of the car.
That's really scummy, man.
Oh my God, it's gone. And I've never come close to owning one again since. And I had a broken one already, and this was going to fix that one up, and I was going to have a perfect one. But yeah,
that's really, really scummy, isn't it? I don't know if it's better to think that the person that took it knew what they were taking or not. Really, I don't know what's preferable.
They could have been taking it for the movie Bumblebee poster display that I'd had tucked into the same bag because the movie was premiered that weekend in the US at BotCon, and
they just fancied the little standee or whatever.
Yeah, maybe
just like the bag. Maybe
it's in the bag. Yeah. Miss Sandwich
chucking the toys and stuff in the bin. Don't want this.
Yeah.
Could be where it ended up. I almost feel better about that, to be honest. To think it, that might be better.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? Stuff like that. Can't get over that.
So of all these variations, there are more, and I do want to mention a couple more. But of all the ones that we've mentioned from Japan, and of course, there was the gold Jazz that we got and a gold Blue Streak as well.
Gold Blue Streak, yeah.
Gold Smoke Screen, there's one of those, and also we think a silver Blue Streak, but no vintage version of that has ever been found, or any documentation to say that it was a prize. So, which of those appeals to you the most of all the ones that are any of them a surprise to you, or did you know about all of them?
The Yellow Trailbreaker's nice, and sort of all of those, but most of them I'm so familiar with now.
Yep.
There's very few that really appeal to me that much. I would have loved to have owned Exhaust.
Oh,
yeah.
And the red Mirage from that Transformers set you mentioned, it is a stunner. This one I've almost considered getting a knockoff of once or twice. It's like so pretty.
I did try it just because I was like, it's so nice. I love the Mirage toy, so I got one of those knockoffs. The red one. Don't do it. It's crap. Absolutely dreadful.
That's a shame. Actually, it's one of the only ones that appeals.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it was dirt cheap. You're talking like a tenner or whatever it is, but it was just awful. Honestly, like really, really bad. And that's coming from someone that I'm not averse to the occasional knockoff or anything. Do you know what I mean? It's where the real thing is going to run you into like 5 figures or something ridiculous. Then
if you're lucky,
yeah, well, exactly. Then a knockoff's the only way to go, isn't it? So, but no, it's just not even worth considering. Honestly,
you know my experiences with knockoff Sunstreaker. So
right, yeah, falling apart.
Right, yeah.
I don't want to go back near those again.
I wouldn't bother, honestly. But yeah, no, fair to say that for me, all of those are appealing in one form or another. I mean, if I could, I would. What can I say? But just not an option, really, is it?
I think it's possible.
I think that's it more than anything. It's the cost. Like, so many of them I look at
Yeah.
them, they're so pretty, and I would like to own them, but they're so far away from me, so it doesn't really enter my head. Like, yeah,
I think it's what you were saying earlier, Maz. I just immediately think of everything I would need to give up
That's
in
it.
order to make it a reality. And I just don't know. I don't know if that's, I don't know. Part of me, in a way, some of the stuff that appeals is the stuff that hasn't got as many photographs of it out
Yeah.
there. You know, like Black Skids is another good example of that. Not many real good photographs of that I've seen. Just the old blurry catalogue shots or whatever. That's it, mainly.
Guess you've not seen my photos, or you don't rate them then.
Well, I'm actually, maybe I haven't seen your. That's maybe it. Do you know what I mean? Because I know I have read tons of your blog, but you were very prolific at that point. So if I have missed one or two, then it's possible.
You're more prolific than I ever was, I must
I
say.
don't know about that.
I think you've actually got more articles on TF Source than I do now. By some way.
I'm up to, I think, 600 and something.
Yeah, it's more than,
This week.
than I have. Yeah. Best tweets of this hour.
Part
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
You got
that's
me.
harsh.
You
That's
got me.
harsh.
But no, okay. So I'll go and look up your Black Skids photos. I'm sure they're lovely. But there are some, aren't there, that are not as widely photographed.
Definitely.
That would appeal, to get the chance to put some nice pictures of some of them out there. But you've done a lot of that already. So just all of them, really. I don't know if as I say, if I could, I would.
Do you know, I mean, I think if you talk about it on a cost thing, you could say that over the last 2 to 3 years, if a collector had not supported the HasLabs and saved that money, they could have any one of the figures we've just talked about. You know, they could have a blue streak, or they could have an exhaust, the Marlboro Wheeljack, or both, if they found good auctions, or they just bought off another collector. And it's just a matter of, would that be sufficient for you as a collector? Like, do you want those enough to sacrifice other things that you would have bought and enjoyed in the meantime? So in reality, when we look at our collections, probably most of the people, for example, that listen to our show and are on our Discord, most of them could afford to start a Diaclone Car Robot collection even today. But what they'd have to not collect as a result.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So if that's what you wanted, like if that is your dream, you can still do it. And people do start this week collecting Diaclone Car Robots, and they just wait and they buy the first one that they see that they like.
Major
they don't buy anything else.
Yeah, just a major trade-off. I mean, if you think of, like, there are people out there, and we always talk about this, but there are people out there now who get, every Masterpiece toy, or every, third-party toy, or the whole wave of, like, Siege and, the whole War for Cybertron trilogy and all of that. And yeah, if you don't collect all of that stuff, of course, you're going to have more cash, aren't you, at the end of the day, that can go elsewhere. And I think that is the thing, is when you're talking about people that collect Diaclone, they're not buying toys every other week or whatever. I mean, we see people out there in the hobby now that I can't fathom, how many toys they can kind of acquire. And that's come from someone that gets, a fair amount of new stuff. But even I know I can't I suppose can't keep up is a weird way to phrase it, but you do see the amount that some people are able to pick up or whatever. Yeah, they probably would be able to do it. But as you said, it would just mean giving up presumably everything else that they enjoy. I don't know. It's choices, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think some things are within the realm of reasonable affordability. Like if anyone really wanted a vintage red Skids, they could probably buy one for less than the price of a sealed G1 Transformer, or even a mint-in-box unused Roadbuster, for example. You could probably get a box road or a loose red Skids for way less than that. And then you could put a red Skids with a blue head next to your Transformers one, and it'd be like a completely new thing, but still hugely familiar and yet exotic in your collection. And that's like super appealing. I mean, it doesn't have to be boxed. That's not how all Diaclone collectors do it. I have a loose display of eHobby reissues behind me, and there's a loose vintage Reboost and a loose vintage Road Rage and a Clampdown. And it's lovely to look at it. And of course, a blue streak. And it just looks amazing with the others.
That's the thing. Vintage Reboost actually is one that would certainly appeal, I suppose, on the back of the Masterpiece being so good as well. Yeah. There's a definite appeal there. And your pictures of it are just wonderful.
And mine's really like weak in terms of condition compared to a lot of other stuff I own. But it still does the business because it's so special looking. It's so different. Imagine 20 years ago, before reissues, before all this stuff that we have Masterpiece, having something like a silver Skids with a completely different red head with a masked face next to vintage G1 would have just been mind-blowing. Imagine that existing. I spent my whole youth not knowing this existed, and then there's my favorite G1 car as a police car. It's wonderful. That's where definitely my passion for it comes from. Can't tell you what it felt like to discover that a police sunstreaker existed.
Yeah, for sure.
What?
Yeah. I feel like you're trying to enable me on vintage Diaclone
I
here.
really don't need more competition, so no, you're fine where you are, mate.
You're right. Okay. Stick in your lane.
No, but it's doable. I think
Yeah.
the odd piece is doable. And that's why you get people who do have very recognizable Generations collection, and then they have an exhaust. Like,
yeah.
that dude has a vintage Tiger Track. What? It happens.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's what you're saying. The odd bit is kind of, it's when you go full tilt on the whole thing, isn't it? That maybe it's a bit more,
Now, this stuff was not restricted to Japan fully. Like we've talked about Diaclone in the US. But yeah, so these toys made it to Italy in a huge amount. Like there are loads of jig Diaclone cars. Blue Streak is available in Italian packaging, for example. Don't know how many collectors are aware of that. Yellow Sideswipe, red Sunstreaker, black Ironhide. They even got Transformers colors like red Ironhide in Diaclone packaging, which is a really nice curio.
Yeah, that's cool.
You get exclusive versions of Mirage with like printed Ligier on the side where you don't get in any other version. They got a green Diaclone hoist, which says Wrecker. So there's like unique things like that in Italy. In Giustra, in mainland Europe, you got the red tracks and you got the powered convoy. But other than that, it's basically pre-rub Transformers in super awesome packaging with exclusive artwork. America got a red Sunstreaker, blue Trailbreaker, black Ironhide. That's basically what those Generation Selects toys that we're getting now are taking their inspiration from in terms of name and designation. Like DK2 and DK3 were original Diaclone designations. And in Finland, this is like the wildest of frontiers. Out in some Arkioski kiosk, there was an exclusive black version of Trax, which we all now know today as Loud Pedal. That was just like discovering that in the year 2004 was incredible. Like, really? There's a black version of Trax exclusive to Finland?
Yeah, it's really mad.
How mad is that?
It's really mad. Yeah. You've absolutely got to love that.
And of course, as you can expect, most collectors and Diaclone collectors in the world are still chasing one of those. There's only 4 known boxed examples in existence.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe 11 loose.
You had one, didn't you?
I had 2.
Yeah. Oh, right, of course.
I had 2 simultaneously, which is bizarre.
You have 50% of the world's known collection.
Well, no, they weren't both boxed, yeah. But yeah, I was able to get one to upgrade the other one. Yeah, it was mad. And that was a wonderful period of time owning that toy. I feel forever privileged to have had that. I spoke to the dude who owned it in his childhood. He still had it. He had the box and everything. And just, I used his photos for my article. And I said, look, mate, if you ever want to sell it, let me know. And then just years later, he got in contact and said, I think I'm ready to sell it now. And we discussed it. And I liquidated so many Transformers toys to afford that. And that was the only way I could get it. And it was a wonderful thing to have. It was worth every penny I paid and was worth all the jazz and hype around it to actually see it in person. I remember all the guys who were going to the pub at the time with us, probably before you were a part of that group, Sixo.
Yeah.
They came round to my place once and I just opened the cabinets and the dudes were all just looking at all the toys. It was lovely to be able to put a Diaclone black Trax in the hands of these people and say, check that out. And it was just a wonderful feeling.
Who broke it?
Nobody.
Fortunately.
It was already broken.
Yeah.
It did actually have glue on it from the previous owner. But
Yeah.
there you go.
Part of its heritage, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. But that, I suppose in some ways, that's the world that I don't think I would ever want to be in. Do you know what I mean? That kind of frenzy of like, oh my God. And like what you were talking about with the Red Mirage and all of that earlier, that's not a world I ever see myself kind of competing in.
You may not have to, because I have to tell you, because you're visible and because you have an online presence, people are likely to find your photos and your blog and your video through Google searches and just be like, hey, Sixo, I've got this toy from my childhood. What do you think it's worth? Do you want it?
Yeah, I know that's happened to you a couple of times.
Yeah.
Which is insane. But
people show up on TFW and like, hey, I'm from Finland. I've got this black Corvette. I saw an online article. Does anyone want to make me an offer? And that's where someone else's black Trax comes from. It doesn't have to be day in, day out, scouring the internet, making contacts, connections. These are childhood toys. They were in the hands of kids. These kids grow up, don't care about the hobby, just maybe want a payday, and they find it on Google and like, yeah, I'll get rid of it to you. It'd be nice to see you make a video of it. And that's it, it's in someone's collection. That's how it can happen.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think is next then in terms of big discoveries? Do you think there's much left out there or not so much?
You never know, mate. You never know.
What would you like to see?
What, in terms of colour?
Yeah. What would be something you'd see and you'd be completely blown away?
Something like a blue or black sunstreaker would be incredible. I think that would be fantastic.
Hot pink Datsun. What about that?
Wow.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. A chromed tracks or something mad like that, gold chrome tracks. There's always a chance that something like that will pop up. A yellow tracks, how good would that be if there was like a
Neon
vintage
green.
Right.
Imagine that.
But yeah, there'll always be something. Like that gold smokescreen was amazing. The black tracks is amazing. The black sideswipe was totally out of left field. No one saw that coming. You never know what country might have got an exclusive. Like maybe there was something in Denmark. Just never know. Why black tracks? Why Finland? Never know.
That's the thing, isn't it? So much of that was just exclusives in different countries at that point and not advertised as such, not in kind of any mainstream universal literature anyway. So,
I mean, Diaclone attack cars, the ones that you pull back and they pop and have an attack mode. They never made it to Transformers. Those have been found on Arabic language cards for the Arabic market in the 80s, and they say Takara on them. If that's a thing that exists, I've heard that Justra Diaclone were available in like Abu Dhabi. You never know what's out there. It's just someone just needs to have preserved it and finally had a moment to dig it out of their storage and show the world. So you never know.
You never know.
And that's the super appeal of the hobby as well. That's the mystery, the prestige, the not knowing, the discoveries are a massive part of the mystique of this collecting part.
カーロボット隊は移動基地バトルコンボイを完成させた。エネルギーの補給、整備、司令基地としての役割を果たす。移動基地バトルコンボイ。
Well, that's all we're going to talk about this week in terms of Diaclone Car Robots, and you should keep an eye out on our exclusive Patreon minisodes because we're going to look at a few of the key players in the Diaclone Car Robot line, and you don't want to miss those. And speaking of Patreon, lads, we have a patron question.
Ooh, that's always fun.
So, the M.A.S.K twins, who you might know, you might recognise.
Hey!
I would have been so disappointed if you hadn't said.
So would they. I really hope they introduce themselves that way at the next TFN.
Why did it have to be Mapes?
Mapes on a plane. They're lovely people. I love them too. Really nice guys.
They're brilliant. They're brilliant.
Well, their question is which hand?
What?
If a toy has one weapon,
All
how
right.
many times will you put it in the left hand?
That's actually a really interesting question.
Very rarely. It's almost always the right hand. Unless for some reason they're next to each other, they like to have opposite hands, if that makes sense.
I'm looking at my collection now. A lot of them appear to be right-handed.
Yep.
I'm looking at, even like Piranacon and things like that, all in the right hand.
Well, this is why Paul Hitchens says that nearly all the Optimus Prime fists he finds are the right fist.
Yeah.
Because kids will put the gun in the right hand, making it bigger, harder to lose, but it never has the left fist. That's the one that's always missing.
That's hilarious.
Mine's the same. Predominantly right hand weapon storage.
It'll be whatever hand you are, isn't it?
I guess. I will say, though, that sometimes I will switch them for photography. So that
Yeah.
there are
Yeah,
times
exactly.
where I just, for whatever reason, like the shot looks better from the sort of side with the left hand. So that is a thing.
I have the jump starters with the opposite hands with the guns.
Lads, Deep Cover has his gun in the left hand.
He's a lefty.
He's undercover.
He's deep cover, yeah.
Bet he can't use most scissors though, can he?
Do you know what would be cool is if like you could have like punch and counter punch, and one of them could be a righty and the other could be a lefty. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Best
That's
disguise.
Yeah, exactly. He's secretly ambidextrous, but no one knows that.
Well, thank you so much to the M.A.S.K twins, who you might recognise, for that question. And if you want to ask a question on the pod, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/triple takeover and sign up as a inner beast. And there are loads of other benefits you get. Even at that level, you get access to the Discord server. If you sign up as Man in Pig, you get episodes early and you can contribute to episode polls. And that's a whole week early. And then you start getting into the exclusive content tiers of Sixo's Butler, where you can commission minisodes and listen to all the minisodes. And we have so many minisodes now.
Oh my God.
So much content there, with more coming all the time. And then if you go one step higher, you've got Gold Box Classics, where you get a free piece of merch for signing up. You can commission minisodes, listen to minisodes, and also you get to listen to the exclusive mini-series, which we mentioned at the start of this episode. And we will be adding a third mini-series very, very soon. So that's patreon.com/Triple Takeover. Another perk of being a Sixo's Butler and Gold Box Classic is that you get a shout out live on the show. So a massive, and I do mean massive, thank you, starting in 2023 to our butlers and GBCs, Nick, Danny Roberts, Andy, Preston, Chris Spiderfather, Adam Shoemaker, Matt, Stephen Perkins, Bad Saturday, Justin Massaro, Dave Dalrymple, Gio Kaiser, Yusuf John Pearl, Choice of Anthony Cars, Alec Meir, Captain R.A., Phil G, Jack Pelletier, Rotor Storm, Stuart Webb, Amar, Laserbeak, Puma the Hunter, Vegemite Mike, Peter Hammerson, Chenry, Chris Norris, Jason Moreno, Nexus, Jim Owen, Aaron Swoboda, Billy Gator, Andy Gold, Cold Squall, Simon Elvin, Joshua's Misha Kid, Michael Cagle, Cactastic Plastic, Down the Stater, Jeffrey Freeg, Nice Sideburns Andy, Inbound Lee, John Wood, Kyler Wilmoth, Tim Banerjee, Campbell, Ben Lewis, Chinsei, Lucas Henkel, Mollis Koenig, Malcolm Hobbs, CNC, Rick56, Mythic Gears, Zach Lawson, Jason Murray, David Shepard, Esteem, Dougatron, Big Doug, Quick Mix, Josh Bell, Ashbolt, Zindios, Christian Hyatt, Mark Alley, Andrew Bentley, Graham Moffat, Connor C, Burke Perotta, Uncharismatic Boar, Eric Hoyt, Bobby P, Mike Lawyer Kono, Nihar Bat, Tyler Husky, Chris Rodwell, Alicia aka Alicia Tron, Steve Redmond, Fart Warp, Shawnee Sean, Jim Kinsey, Sean T. Siegel, I've been saying his name wrong this whole time, James Pascoe, Ghost Prime, 4 Big Balls, do I have to do that every time? Jickle, MK Tronic,
Yes.
Robert Walter, Charlie Chappelle, DD, Maddie Clark, Jonathan Foss, Logic Howard, Alexis Taylor, Windows 6K, Teku James, Tyler Dickerson, Jeremy Woodall, Ross, and a big thank you to our new patrons, Jetfire James, Sixo, you're going to love this one, Dog Lunch UK,
Yes!
yes, and the Mapes Brothers, who you may recognise. What a list!
Can I just say, there are some fantastic names in there, but my favourite was just Ross. After all of those, Fart Warp, all of these different names, Windows 6K, everything.
Dog Lunch UK.
Yeah.
Well done, mate.
I wonder if it's the chap that we saw at TFN with the Dog Lunch t-shirt. Do you remember?
I hope so. Wow.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, what a dog lunch. Fantastic. Well, also worth a mention are our sponsors for the evening. Of course, we've got tfsource.com for all your Transformers and third-party needs, and kapowtoys.co.uk, based in the UK as well. Absolutely fantastic pair of sponsors, that is. Do check them out. We love them. Thanks very much.
And if you want some vintage Triple Takeover merch, you can get it in all sorts of variants, just like Diaclone. You can head over to rebel.com/people/Triple Takeover/explore. And if you discover any Diaclone variants that Maz has never heard of, you can contact us on social media. You can find us at triple_takeover on Instagram and Twitter, and at Triple Takeover, all one word, on Facebook. Lads, where can they find you?
Yeah, don't send any of that to the Triple Takeover Facebook or Twitter. Send it directly to me at TFsquareone on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Slide into his DMs.
You're welcome.
I'm at SixoTF on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, some other ones, all of those places.
And I'm at Toybox Soapbox. Anyway, there's an at.
That's our look at Diaclone Car Robots done, and now we're all out of fists, free zone, and fair ladies. See you next time. Sorry, it's a bad time to get from
Let's start beatboxing.
Yeah.
I genuinely wonder what was happening. I was like, wow.
It's a new outro, isn't it?
That would be brilliant. Just imagining Maz just signing off for like,
Please don't joke. Please don't joke.
Gold chrome looking chain.
brilliant.
Diaclone.